Welcome again, woo-woo, to our self-love empowerment. As I said, I'm your host today, or tonight, Charbria Shine. I'm really excited that you chose to join us tonight. So we have some amazing panelists, experts in their fields. We're gonna have them come up right now. I would like to just call these beautiful ladies up. So we have Ty Creighton, if you could come to the stage. Then we have Nikki Winston. LaDonna Bazell. Come on, give them another hand clap while they're coming up here. All right, yeah, so we're gonna jump right into it. I just wanna introduce these wonderful ladies. So we have Ty Creighton. She's a licensed therapist, MSW, LCSW, licensed clinical social worker providing mental health services for over 13 years. Give it up to Ty Creighton. We have Nikki Winston. Not only is she degreed in Christian studies and psychology, she's an author. She's a speaker, a minister. Give it up for Nikki Winston. All right, we have LaDonna Bazell. She's client services manager. She served as a counselor at the Women's Center for over 10 years. As a counselor, she's provided consultation to women who are experiencing crisis, who need emotional, spiritual, financial support. And as a licensed minister for over 20 years, her passion is pretty much to empower and encourage women to live their fullest life in Christ. Yes. Give her a hand clap. Woo, woo, woo. And I'm Charbria Shine. I'm an author, speaker, and a podcast host of Max Out Girl, and also an entrepreneur. And so what I do is I love to empower women. If you follow me for any amount of time, you know that I love to throw events to just encourage us as women, to empower us. And sometimes even just to talk about and bring up issues that maybe we may not be comfortable with, talking about, but we need to. And so it's so important to get together, I feel, and have girl talk. Girl chat, and just be real and open and vulnerable. So before we get started, I want to just point your attention to back by the table where you came today to get checked in. There's a question box behind her. There's a little stool and it's a pink bin. There are pens back there in the bin and there are sheets of paper. She's Hannah. There you go. She's holding it up for you. So we're going to have a Q&A session after our panel discussion, because maybe you have a question and you really don't want everybody in your business, right? Maybe you just don't feel comfortable asking it, and that's totally fine. Or maybe you're bold enough to ask it, and we're going to have a mic over here at the end where you can come up and ask your question. So either way, if we're talking about something or you have some questions, go ahead, put your question in the question box. Just fold it up. You don't have to put your name on it. It's anonymous. Just put it in there, and then Hannah will bring it to us at the end, and we'll answer those questions. But again, if you want to ask out loud, we're also going to have an opportunity to do that, okay? So let's get started. So this is self-love empowerment, and I think it's so important to love ourselves as women. How many know sometimes we neglect our own selves? Maybe you're a mother, maybe you're a sister, maybe you're a parent, maybe you're a CEO, an entrepreneur, maybe you're a pastor in any capacity, whatever. Maybe you're a dog mom. We have a lot of responsibilities, right? And so because of that, it's so important to take time out to make sure we're filling ourselves up so that we can have something to pour out into the lives of others, because we're blessed to be a blessing. We want to be able to pour and bless out those people around us, to be a blessing to them, whether it's in our marriage or in our singleness, our friends, our family members, or in our job, in our careers. But sometimes we start running on empty. Okay, can anybody else testify to that? Because I know I can. Sometimes you just feel like, I'm drained. I have nothing else. I'm pretty much done. I'm tapped out, God. I'm tapped out. And so it's so important to have these moments to just discuss the importance of loving ourselves, taking time out to care for ourselves, again, so we can be full, okay? And so we're going to talk about that. Oh, I can take that for you. Oh, she says, can she cuddle it? She's so cute. Yes, cuddle it. But if anybody is annoyed, just move it out of your way.
I'm thinking about it.
It's so cute, right? I love it. So let's jump right into it. Ladies, because you guys are the experts, I'm just the host up here, So tell me, what is self-love in your opinion? What is self-love and why is it so important? Let's start with Nikki.
Well, so, self-love, turn it around, loving yourself. And of course, it's a Christian answer, but it's what I believe, loving who you are in Christ, loving how God made you. So there is so much that can be said for this. when I know who I am in Christ, when I know how God made me and that he loves me and that because of Jesus, God sees me as perfect because of Jesus who shed his blood for me. When I know my value, then I will think highly enough of myself to do for myself, right? Of course, there's, we all know when we have things that we have responsibilities and children and family, we're always pouring out, then we have to, if I don't pour in, then I'm not going to have anything left to give out. But aside from that, let's say I didn't have any responsibilities. I know I'm valued. Therefore, I know that I need to do things that show my value and keep me healthy, right? Yeah. So, I mean, if you're just talking about self-love, if you're talking about not self-care, just self-love, for me, it's just knowing who I am, knowing I'm valuable. If I never did another thing, I'm valuable, which is really important because sometimes women who are designed to be producers, right? I mean, look at how our body's made. We're basically a factory, right? So we're designed to be producers, and if you stop producing, like you have a season where you're just not doing what you used to do, like you do so much, right? You produce so much. What if for some reason you had a season where you just weren't allowed, you couldn't, whatever, it was cut off, and you start to feel like, am I valuable? Mm-hmm. It comes at your identity. Yeah. And so it's why it's really important to know how much God loves you and how much he values you so that your identity is always found in the right thing and not all the awesome things we can do.
Yeah. Oh, I love that because she's so right. Like you just made a great point. Like even me personally, all the stuff that I do, and there has been seasons in my life where I couldn't really produce. Like as you know, like the books or the plays or the shows, I was kind of like shut down. And you're right, it does hit at your identity. For me, it definitely did because I'm just like, what am I now? What am I doing? Why am I here? Like what's going on? But you're right, when you know you're valuable no matter what, because you are just created with value. It doesn't really matter what you're doing or producing or not doing. And I love that because sometimes I think we can have our value in what we do or our jobs or our economic status or how much money we have or if we are married or, if you don't want to be single, you're like, what's wrong with me? I'm still single. So I think that's so important just to know that God created each and every one of us with value. That's it. Doesn't matter where you live, your ethnicity, what you look like, you were created with value, and that's why you should love yourself. And I love that. Ty, what do you have to say?
So definitely, I echo what Nikki said. I think for me, it is steeped in purpose and identity. And then also, I would say being comfortable in your own skin. I've had times where I challenge people. So as you mentioned, being a licensed clinician, I see people from different walks of life. And I challenge people to spend time alone with themselves. And I was just so surprised at how many people found that so difficult. And I'm like, really? And it's like, if you are not comfortable with yourself and you're so used to people, chatter, things, it fills all the spaces. And then you don't take that time to really get to know yourself, love yourself, and be comfortable in your skin.
Yeah. Good. Donna, what do you have to say?
Definitely, and taking that time to appreciate things about yourself, because you could have gifts and things that you don't even realize you have. So you don't feel like you're adding value or worth to anything. But first, like Nikki was saying, your identity in Christ, who God made you just from the womb, you are valuable. That's the first thing. And then getting to learn yourself. What are your gifts? What are your talents? What are those things you can contribute? When you take time to learn those things, that's how you develop your sense of worth and who you are and loving yourself and not comparing to others and what others have.
I think that's good because the comparison, I call it the comparison plague. I feel like comparing is definitely, we hear it all the time, is like it takes your joy, it steals your joy. And God created you individually, all of us, right? But we can look at somebody else and start coveting their gifts and their talents and how they look. And somebody might be looking at you and coveting what you have. So it's just so great to learn how to love ourselves, what God has given us, and improve ourselves. If there's things you want to improve and learn and grow, but learning how to just accept you as you are. And I feel like for me, Self-love is loving me, all of me, the flaws and all. Don't mean I have to stay with the flaws, but if there's things that I want to grow and ways I want to improve myself, do that. But not for the approval of others, just because I want to be a better woman, first and foremost for myself. I think the biggest thing for me is I had to learn to not care what people think about me. Like, I am who I am, and not in an attitude way, like I am who I am, deal with it. Not like that, but more so like this is who God created me to be. Yep. And some people, like for me in particularly, I'm too much for some people. And I had to learn that's okay. I don't mean to be too much, but this is me. So I have to not reject myself, but learn to love and be myself. And for me, there are situations that cause me to reject myself because maybe someone else rejected me or things like that. And it's so important if someone rejects you for you not to think that their opinion is higher than God's opinion of you. And sometimes we can do that in relationships. So I want to ask, ladies, I want to get a little deeper. Has there been a situation in your life that rocked you to the core and rocked your self-love? Like made you really ask yourself, am I lovable? Like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong? Anybody? Let's get deep. Come on, ladies. We pretty up here, but let's come on. Let's take the layers off. Y'all want to hear some juicy stories, right? Come on. Who's gonna be vulnerable first?
Is this being streamed?
It's not being streamed.
Okay, all right. No, I mean it's all right. And these people, they're not watching this group. You know, it's funny. I was thinking, oh, my divorce, but no, it wasn't my divorce. It was my first marriage. Rocked me because I felt unlovable, not enough, not thick enough, not skinny enough, not pretty enough. It was weird. It was like nothing was right. I couldn't do anything right. And I tried. And it was like, and if anyone's ever been married or in a relationship with someone like that, you know, it's like, you're just questioning yourself constantly. Am I this? Am I too much? Am I too little? Am I not supportive? Am I bossy? Am I like, what am I? Am I all these bad things? And I know I said skinny and thick enough, but that was a real thing. Like, yeah. I was thick when we first were together, and then while we were together, I got real thin, and neither were good. And I know that sounds like a small thing, but it kind of tells you where we were at. Like, it was and that rocked me. And then we did get divorced, and I didn't realize, you don't realize how much, especially if you're going through that, you don't realize how much that type of abuse affects you. And then I was out of there. I was actually in my mom's home, and with the first few days, and the only way I can put it is I felt like I was walking around waiting for something to come around the corner and like oppress me, if that makes sense. And I had to learn that I was okay, like not a complete messed up failure of a person. Yeah. And so, yeah, was that a two-part question or just that?
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah. I said, where was a situation that rocked you to your core that made you pretty much doubt your self-love or think that you're unlovable? Ask yourself, what's wrong with me?
Yeah, and then I will one more. Yeah. I hope I'm not. If I'm going too long, just tell me, Nikki, shorten it, Nikki. When I was younger, the man who raised me left our family, and I didn't know. I was about 11. I was 12 when he was gone, and I didn't cry at a movie, at anything for like 5 years. I didn't know. I just felt tough, you know. And then all of a sudden I realized I was 17 at an altar bawling for the first time in like 5 years. Say that to say that for years affected me. I was the girl with daddy issues. So at the core, it was unlovable, unworthy, right? But what it looked like was too sexy, trying to be attractive, attracting male attention, that kind of thing. And I'm talking 12 years old. You could see it's like a flip switched from when he was there and when he was gone. Even in pictures of me, you can see the difference. And so but I was unaware, but it was unlovable. I realized at one point God showed me that it was a spirit of unworthiness, and I thought I was unlovable. And God healed me. Like, in a moment, I got healed. Yeah. So.
Yeah, anybody else experience?
I think with relationships it's hard because if you care for someone, you love someone, you want that love given back. And so when in relationships it's difficult. I can remember being a teenager and dating in high school, and there was a guy I was dating, and you're already a teenager, you're already struggling with body issues, and you're not like everyone else, and you want this person to like you. And we were all getting ready to go out, and he came and said, "Oh, we're not going. I can't take you." And I was like, "What? Like, I mean, you can't take me? Like, what's going on?" And I started questioning, like, why doesn't he want to take me? Like, what's wrong with me? Like, is it my hair? Is it what I have on? Like, what is it? Well, it was just that someone else he was seeing was going to be there, and he didn't want to get caught. So these were issues with him, but I internalized those things because I'm like, what's wrong? You know, so that's hard. It's when you're dealing with issues and you see it was the other person, it's not you. But when in those situations, it's easy to internalize those things. But I can say I struggled with body issues for a while after that. And then you have to really just be comfortable with yourself and realize, like, you have the power to change. If it's something you don't like, if you don't like being late, or if you want to lose a couple pounds, or if you don't like how your hair look, you got the power to change it. It's not, that's about self-love, loving yourself and being comfortable and knowing I got the power to change and strengthen myself. It was about him. Those were his issues, and not internalize others' issues and other images of ourselves. Yeah. That's that self-love, loving yourself no matter what.
Yeah. No, that's really good. Ty?
I would say definitely when I had, I was in my previous marriage, I dealt with rejection, and that it rocked me to my core. I questioned everything, and it impacted me in ways that I didn't know, and then even as a therapist, uncovering different things and learning, different techniques and skills and things like that. Sometimes I will have to actually address some residual things that I'm like, oh, okay, that's still a thing, I would be suspicious of people. When I work with people, I talk a lot about basically the dialogue that we tell ourselves, like the soundtracks and things like that. And I know I've said before, I think on one of your other platforms, but it's just who I am. I talk about trying to make sure that I have the right mindset. I was big on the soundtrack was everybody always wants something from me. And I'm like, everybody always wants something from me. And I felt like it wasn't reciprocated. And I felt like I couldn't trust people, and I felt unworthy. I felt like I wasn't lovable. Because I had given almost, nothing was good enough. Like you said, I felt like I had given everything, and it just wasn't good enough.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So with these situations, how many ladies out there feel like you've been tried by some situation that tried to rock your self-love to the core? Anybody can attest to that? Raise your hand if you feel like, yeah, I dealt with that. How many of you guys, it was mostly with relationships? Oh, shoot, that's most of the room, all of us. A lot of times, yeah. And that's not everyone's situation because everyone's hand didn't go up. But I do think that's a big thing, especially with romantic relationships. I feel like, same with me, I wasn't married, but I'm married now. But before my husband, I was almost married. And similar situations, like you just feel like something's wrong with you. Like what's wrong with me that this didn't work out? I remember dating one guy. We were both Christians, and he told me, he said, we were courting for a little while. So, you start to think, oh, okay, And he said one day, you have it all, but for some reason, I can't commit to you. And I was like, what does that mean? Right. Wait, what? What does that mean? And so that was the most confusing thing I've ever heard. So I'm like, well, what do you mean? And he started going through the attributes. You would be a good wife, but I just can't commit to you. And so it was really confusing. But for me, because I was at that point really trying to live for God and really trying to do things the right way, that really was such a terrible feeling because I'm like, wait, you mean to tell me I'm really trying to do things the right way? I'm really trying to, and you telling me I'm still unlovable? Those aren't the words he said, but that was the dialogue I told myself, that something's wrong with me. something has to be wrong with me. But looking back, it's like, what? Because some man rejected you? No, that doesn't mean something is wrong with you. Maybe something's wrong with him. Or maybe you're just not compatible, but that doesn't mean that something is wrong with you. And it doesn't have to always be romantic. It could be friendships. It can be a family member, a mother who you feel like, I am never good enough. I do this, I do that, but you don't see it. Or maybe you've changed and you've matured and they still see you as that person you used to be and they can never get over it. But I think, like you said with the dialogue, we have to learn, because I feel like this, the voice that I'm gonna listen to the most is my voice. So if I'm saying negative things to myself, like I'm unlovable, or nobody's gonna love me, or my mama right, I'm stupid, then that's what you're gonna believe. But I feel like we have to change our self-dialogue. And look, you're not gonna always feel it. Most of the time you're not gonna feel it, but you have to speak it in your life. And I think that's just so important, so key. Like she said, what's that internal dialogue you're telling yourself? And you may have to force it, depending where you are in your life at the time. You may not feel lovable, or you may be struggling, because it's not always that, we have low self-esteem. Not always. Sometimes you're just going through life and things try to hit you to knock down your self-appreciation, your self-love, knock down your spirit. And you have to be conscious of that and say, not today, Satan. We're not going for that. And just learn to encourage yourself. How many of you guys are big on encouraging yourself? I'm big on encouraging myself. And when you can't encourage yourself, girl, you better have a friend that can encourage you, somebody. But I'm big on encouraging myself. But still, have a girlfriend in your life that can lift you up and can pray with you and be there with you, your soundbite, just in case, you're going off to the side. They can say, Charbria, not today. Okay? So, ladies, back to what you said. When you had that thing that shook you to the core, how did you get out of that? Like, how did you find your way back to self-love? Who would like that challenge? Oh, she's going to pass the mic. She going to pass the mic. Look, nobody wants to talk. So, let's look your situation. You went through your situation. You ended up getting a divorce. It rocked you to the core. How did you, because there might be a woman in here who's like, I'm divorced right now. I hate men. I don't want to see a man. I don't know what to do. I feel unlovable. I can't stand it. There's no hope for me in the love department. And maybe they even feel unlovable. How did you, because now you're happily married, how did you find your way, first of all, to healing, and loving yourself again? That's the first question. I mean, that's probably these are loaded questions.
Yeah,
but kind of just give just a few things. I know this could be a deep conversation, but.
So definitely a lot of prayer. I had to put myself around people that would lift me up, that would speak into my life positive things, speak to my faith and not my fears. And I did spend a lot of time alone. I spent a lot of time alone, really just because I felt like I was doing things to please other people, and it's like I had lost sight of who I thought I was. So then it's like, well, who am I? And so just really getting back to, it really goes back to the purpose and identity, really digging in to find out, okay, so who am I and what am I, here for? And it was a process. I had to be open to healing. I had to be open to saying, okay, yes, this was done to me. And I mentioned before, a lot of it I had to deal with, I had to stare myself in the face and deal with pride and arrogance, because I'm like, the biggest thing for me, it was the ego thing, like, I'm Ty. You don't do that to me. And it's like, I had to really, for real, I'm being honest, I had to get over that, and just lean into the fact that I had to feel all the feels. I did. Lean into the fact that, yes, I thought this was going to be my forever mate. Yes, I thought we would do ministry together, have a bunch of children together. And that didn't happen. And I had to really acknowledge and face the reality of that. And then really, for real, just like, okay, allowing myself to allow God to just pour back into me, because I was totally depleted, I felt defeated. I actually did go, I had spiritual counselors, but then I also did therapy myself. I'm like, I felt like I really needed that extra oomph. And that's really kind of how I got on the road to healing. It was a process. It was not like an overnight thing. I think even just connecting with other people when I felt like I was ready for that, though. It was for me, and everybody is different. Yeah. For me, I needed to have that space, that time to myself. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I got on the road.
Thanks. Anybody else want to jump in?
It's funny you say everyone's different, because for me, connecting with people would be first. Okay. I'm totally an extrovert, and being around people is huge for me. So, it's funny. So, and I think it's just good to acknowledge the differences in the room. For you all out there, you might need time before you connect with other people. And some of you might need to connect with people to heal before you have, feel a little comfortable with that time. So, but I went through a process. So it was after my divorce. Someone invited me to what is called Encounters. And it was this weekend. And one of the big moments in the weekend, it was the forgiveness session, and we learned about forgiveness, and then we did a forgiveness proxy. Does anyone here know what a forgiveness proxy is? Okay. And it's where someone stands in proxy for who you need to forgive. They say, she would say, talk to me like I'm your father. Talk to me like I'm your ex-husband. And I forgave my father. I forgave my stepdad. My stepdad is actually the one that left. I didn't know my father until later in life. But that was the one that I knew as father all my life since a baby. And then I forgave everybody. And man, it felt like a literal weight was lifted off of me. And I just felt free. I felt like this going in, and I felt like dancing in front of all these Christian women afterward. And that's just not what I was feeling before that, And so that's where I started. Forgiveness was the start of the journey, and then healing, and then even changing habits. And then also that unworthiness moment. I was actually worshiping, and I was just worshiping, not thinking at all about myself or my, situation. And God said, he just said, you have a spirit of unworthiness. It was just like, that's what I heard. I was like, whoa, like that. I wasn't even talking about this right now. Okay. So I asked God, okay, if that's the case, take it now, just take the whole thing. And it's like in that moment, I felt it go. And I was changed, not completely changed, but that part in a moment, it was wonderful. So, but I know that I couldn't have gotten there had I not forgiven these people, forgiven to the core. Not, oh, okay, well, I forgive them. Hurt, pain, hard to do, crying. And I'm saying that because when you forgive somebody that has really done you wrong, it's hard. And if it was the moment where you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to forgive now, and they really did you wrong, you probably have some more to do. It's work, get with a friend, work it out. But forgiving, I felt free. It wasn't about them. They didn't even know I forgave them, but I was free.
Awesome. Did you want to jump on? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say just the revelation of the truth. And that's what happened for me when I realized that it wasn't the issue with me. It was the person. But it's kind of metaphorical, too, because when you come to the revelation of the truth, that's when the healing starts. When you understand that I'm not unworthy. When your mind changes, no, I deserve love. I am loved. God loves me. It's the revelation of the truth that really starts the healing, and you can begin to move past those. That's the actual event that happened, but just metaphorically realizing the truth about who you are is what can bring that healing.
No, that's awesome. Thank you. And so pretty much for me, what helped me is to keep a certain point of view. And it's an acronym, VIEW. I try to remember that I'm valuable, I'm important, I'm equal to anything and anyone, and I'm worthy of love and respect. And that's something that I used to work at a nonprofit, and I taught young adults how to have healthy relationships, how to communicate effectively, how to love themselves, and how to date properly and those types of things. And that was one of the acronyms that we taught them. And it stuck with me years later. I am valuable, I'm important, I'm equal to anything and anyone, and I'm worthy of love and respect. And I always say, keep that point of view, because things are gonna try to tackle you in life. But when you realize you're valuable, because that's how God created you. You're important. It doesn't matter if someone tries to make you feel less than, you're not. And you're equal to anything and anyone. And you are worthy of love and respect. And so try to keep that just in mind, like as you're going through things, because it really just helps things and keeps me in perspective. And of course, as you hear us, our Christian faith, as you probably are getting the common theme that we're Christians, that definitely keeps us rooted and grounded. Because when you know that God created you on purpose, for a purpose, he loves you so much that he sent Christ for you, that's a game changer. My life really changed when I got the revelation of that. All this other stuff's great, but when you get the revelation of who you are in Christ, who he made you, and the great plans and purposes he has for your life, it don't matter who coming against you. It don't matter if somebody try to dump you, leave you, whatever. Yeah, it hurt for a minute. Yeah, it can hurt. It could be really hard, the things you go through. But when you get a hold of that healing and that unconditional love of God, it's a game changer. Yeah. So we're going to just switch gears a little bit for the sake of time. So we're going to speed it up just a little bit. So Ty, I'm gonna target you on this one, therapist. Mental health has been a really hot topic lately. So let's talk about mental health. Why do you think it's such a hot topic lately? Tell us a little bit about what it is and why you think it's so important right now.
So mental health has been, I say, trending because sadly, there's been a lot of depression, anxiety. I know the pandemic, we saw, a surge with that. But I think even leading up to that, just even working with the youth, the world is different. It is just a different world. And there are a lot of extras out there. And again, as you stated, I don't know how people do it without God. Like if you don't have a foundation, you're gonna be just tossed all around. And so the thing about that is, I feel like the connection to that connection piece, we've talked like when we have our roundtables with the clinicians, the fact that people were isolated, but then also the fact that everybody is so connected to the technology, it's like you really don't have to have a face-to-face conversation with anyone if you don't want to. And that, honestly, that's a breeding ground for anxiety, for stress, when you are put in a situation and you have to hold a conversation. And then depression, it stems from a lot of different things. I think a lot of people deal with trauma, and again, trauma can be something that's traumatic to me. It may be nothing for you. So that it depends on the person. But a lot of people carry things from the past, traumatic, events, and it impacts them as they move along in life. And then they have these issues and they don't know what to do with them. And then it really starts to take over and people feel out of control. And so I think because it's such a big thing and people are opening up and they're talking about it more, now it's like, oh, okay, people who maybe have been suffering in silence, they feel like I can speak out now because this celebrity says something about it. Well, just because that celebrity, this has been going on for a long time, but I think because people are more open about it, it's like, okay, people don't feel as embarrassed to say, oh, I deal with this, or I'm struggling with that, or I take medication for this. Did I answer your question?
Yes. So
okay.
Before I ask another question, anybody want to add on, or can I move on? That's good? Okay. So okay, another question about mental health. Because again, these topics can go so long and very deep. So we're kind of just hitting some topics, just bring some awareness to some things, because we know these can take this can be a whole conversation for hours. But are there just some things, like maybe just some quick tips that you can give us from a therapist perspective, but also from a spiritual perspective, just some quick tips of how maybe we can monitor or help assist our mental health? Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
So it's about the mind. It starts with the dialogue. Again, the dialogue that you're having with yourself, or what you are accepting, what you're hearing and what you are accepting. I am a big believer in some type of quiet time. For me, that's a devotion time. That's prayer. And sometimes it is just sitting in silence. Now, I do my Devo and my prayer, but then I may do another time where I'm like, okay, I'm just going to sit in silence. But I think it's really just sitting still for a moment. And I do a lot of self-reflection and allowing yourself time to actually think about, okay, what am I dealing with? What am I feeling? How am I reacting and responding to other people? It is also a good thing to ask people who you trust to tell you the truth, do you see anything different with me? Do you feel like I'm suspicious or I deal with anxiety? Because sometimes we think, oh, I'm okay. And the people around you are like, I'm actually really concerned about you, yeah. And I also tell people, and they say this, that is trending, that it's okay to not be okay. And that is true. It's like, I tell people, but the thing is, what is not okay is to stay there and to feel like I'm not okay and this is where I want to reside. That I for me, that's not my approach. I'm like, okay, you acknowledge that, but then what's next? So I really think it's to really ask yourself, what am I saying to myself? 3 quick things. When a person is having a negative thought, I say, okay, you ask yourself, is it true? Is it helpful? And is it kind? Someone may be dealing with something and they're like, well, this did happen to me and they are mean. Okay, so that may be true. But is it helpful to sit around and say that to yourself all day long? No, that's not. And then the other question is it kind? When people ask, okay, what do you mean by that? I'm like, okay, you think of the person that you love the most in the world. Would you sit across a table from them and tell them the thoughts that you're having, because that's what you're doing. You're telling yourself this all day, every day. Would you tell that person across the table that you love so dearly those thoughts and those words? And most cases, it's like, never. Then I'm like, then why would you tell yourself that? Why would you put yourself through that? And okay, all right now, okay. and another thing I challenge people is the first one, if you ask yourself, is it true? And then you're like, no, it's not true. Then I challenge them and say, so would you hang out with a liar all day, every day? So you're lying to yourself and you're accepting these lies and you're just chilling with the lies all day, every day. And when you think about it that way, it's like, and that's easy. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it kind? I've had some people challenge me and they say, well, sometimes I'm confused. It's so confusing, and I don't know, because their mind may tell them one thing is true, and they think another thing is true. Then again, I say you go to those trusted people that will tell you the truth, and you ask them, you say, this is the thought I'm having. Do you see this to be true for me? And let them tell you the truth.
That's good. Give her a hand. Thank you for that. That was great. So let me ask you this, and anybody can chime in. Can it be true that things that help one person's mental health are different? Like for me, you said quiet time. Sometimes I need to go out and have fun to help my mental health. Right. Is that okay? Okay, because I'm like, for me, I'm like, I want to go out. I want to, have some fun. And that helps. Like for me, my mental health is probably where it can struggle is when I'm in isolation for too long. But that's probably the more extroverted part of me that's like, I need to get out and mingle with another human being, So, okay. So basically finding what helps you mentally. Self-care.
So for you, and that can
Get the mic.
It literally could be jogging, listening to jazz music. It could be listening to worship music, working out, lifting weights.
It's my level right now. Come on.
Yeah. What?
Some movement, some dancing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's So I was going to leave room for. But
yeah.
it's
back off. Who else got something to say?
Okay, now I got to finish my sentence. Okay, so it's
y'all heard me. I said back off.
Whatever recharges you. Like if sometimes reading a book in silence, that recharges me. Somebody else, they might be like, no way. It really is what recharges and refuels you. That's self-care.
Anybody want to add on, or we're going to move on? Go ahead, Nikki.
Yeah, and I don't know, some people don't like being put in a box or defining, but if we want to define a little bit, introverts and extroverts. The difference between them is not like introverts, it's not that extroverts like people and introverts don't. That's not true. We all can love people. That is just what we're supposed to be, Christian, right? The difference is introverts recharge and get their energy back. And this is energy to be able to behave well. Has anyone here ever been tired and you're like, you just can't behave well? Like you're talking sideways to people and stuff when you're just fully tired or mentally exhausted. So this is what I mean by recharge. So introverts recharge by getting some time alone. They recharge alone. And extroverts recharge by being around people. I like to put it that extroverts suck the energy from people, and people suck the energy out of introverts. So my husband, he's an introvert, although you can't quite tell when he's interacting socially. He's really great. Like he seems like he likes it. But we we'll have a service, we'll do something like this, right? We'll get home, he goes and he takes a nap. Like gets alone. Every Sunday, I call it the recharge button, a reset. He'll go in the room, he'll watch sports for a while, and then sleep. And we don't see him for like 3, 4, maybe even 5 hours. So that's okay, because guess what? He comes out a new man. Yeah. He has all the energy, and he's cute and funny, and all the good things. So it's the recharge. A lot of times has to do with introvert, extrovert.
No, Donna. Okay. All right, cool. So let's talk about self-care real quick. So Donna, give me some self-care tips, or also what are some things that as women, let's even talk about maybe health-wise, what are some things that we maybe should do? Is there some checkups we should be doing, or some care type tips? What are some things we could be doing?
So I'm not a health professional.
Okay.
I'm not a doctor, but if you a certain age, there are tests that you have to make sure you do. I turned 45 a year ago. Yeah. So they're like, oh, you got to get a colonoscopy.
Yep.
You have to get.
So our checkups.
Yep. Checkups. Definitely go to the doctor. Go to the doctor.
And that's part of self-care.
Yes, that's part of self-care. Let them check your blood pressure, get your mammogram. I remember the first time I went to the mammogram, it was a whole thing. So yes, make sure you are taking care of yourself medically. Yes, go, and it's not fun, but you got to go through it. You got to go through it. Pap smears, all of that, all those things. Go get them. That's important for self-care. For just to relax, I go to get my nails done. It's something my mom always did, so it's a way to remember her. Go to get your nails done, and I have to. When I get my nails done, I don't think about anything. I have to focus in. I'm just getting my nails done, not what I have to cook after I leave here, not if I have to take this person somewhere to do that. For that 45 minutes to an hour, I shut it down. I'm not answering text. I'm not doing anything. I'm just caring for myself in that time. So that's important.
Well, that's good. Thank you. I think that's so important. It kind of boils down to kind of like what we've all been saying. What do you like for you? Like it might be nails, shopping. It might be a nap. Self-care might be a nap for somebody, or reading a chapter in a book, or getting your hair done, your nails done, or like we're about to do, going to the spa, those things. And I think that's so important. I think sometimes, I don't know if you're anything like me, but as much as I'm a girly girl, it's easy sometimes for me to start neglecting myself just out of the busyness of life. Not that I want to, I love all those things, but I think sometimes you got to pencil yourself in, like make yourself a priority. And I'm just realizing that like we take the time to pencil everything else in, we have to pencil ourselves in. And I know it can be tough if you have kids, or if you're a wife, or if you have a busy job, even if you're single. I think sometimes people think singles have all the time in the world. That's not true. You have a life too. And so it's so many times we neglect ourselves and we pencil everyone else in, but we don't do it for ourselves. And even that's so good you said about the doctor's appointments and just the little maintenances. Like if you don't get your car maintained, you don't keep it maintained, what's gonna happen to it?
Shut down.
It's gonna fall apart.
Yep.
It's the same with us. So not only just in the physical and health-wise, but also spiritually, that's first and foremost. And then physically, getting our checkups, eating well, and doing some type of movement. Everybody doesn't like to work out, I get it, but just something, even if it's 10 minutes a day, walk down the street, walk up and down. The other day I did some Zumba in my place. I mean, I just had a good time dancing in the mirror, y'all, and it was great, and I felt amazing. And so I don't love the gym, but I love working out. You see what I'm saying? But it has to be fun. I gotta do something that's fun, Okay, and then it gets hot outside, I'll ride my bike. Yeah, so I like to stay in shape, but I can't be boring. I'm not gonna be walking on that treadmill for 2 hours. It's boring. But some people like that, and that's good. But just being conscious of our overall health, right? That's why we're talking about self-love, self-care tips, our mental health, and even spiritually, if you're not feeding yourself, just like in the natural, you don't feed yourself, you get weak, eventually you will die. Same spiritually. What are you doing spiritually? Are you reading your word? And everybody's not believers in here, but for those of you who are, we need to be feeding ourselves spiritually. What are you doing every day? Is it even if it's 10 minutes, is it devotion like she's doing? Is it praying on your way to work, listening to a faith-based message while you're commuting? Whatever it is, we have to be feeding ourselves. Because I'm going to tell you one thing. I could be slim and trim in the physical, but if my spirit, man, is all jacked up, I'm no good. And it's been times in my life where on the outside, I had it together, but I was hurting inside. So let's make sure that we're also tending to our spiritual man, okay? And so we're going to jump to our last topic really quick. Relationships, healthy relationships. This is one of my favorite topics. If you listen to my podcast ever, I love talking about, especially when I was single, I talked a lot about that. But we're just going to jump right into it about 5 minutes with this topic. I'm going to start with Nikki this time. So with healthy relationships, doesn't always mean a romantic relationship. This could be friendships. I believe that self-love, part of self-love is saying yes to the healthy relationships and no to the unhealthy ones. Yeah. So what are some, I would say, warning signs of a toxic friendship or relationship?
Well, I mean, some obvious things are when they call, you're like, oh.
You don't want to talk to them.
You don't want to answer it.
But what if you do? You love this friend. And I'm the one that has to tell you, here's the red flag, here's the red flag. Girl, you don't see this?
Okay, like they
like maybe you don't even notice
you in the wrong direction.
Okay.
Let's say maybe you had some habits that you got through and you don't do those habits anymore, and you find yourself back in those habits. So you're talking about someone that you do like to be with.
Yeah, so
right.
So maybe a situation could be, I had a problem with drinking. I was an alcoholic, and maybe I'm so excited that I've been sober for 1 year. But I got this girl, she's my best friend, one of my best friends, and she's like, girl, let's go out drinking, girl. You know? What would you say to me? How would you, because I love this friend. Anybody else?
I'd probably start asking you about your history.
Yeah.
What did you say, did you tell me before that you used to, and you overcame that? And that's really, really great. What did you do the other night?
So you'll start asking me the hard questions to hold me accountable.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Peaceful and loving confrontation. Yeah. Confrontation that is for the person. That's for their benefit. So I guess you're asking what are red flags.
Yeah.
I think one thing is if the friends around you, your other friends who love you, they are your ride or lives. They're the people that have your back and are always for you.
That's cute, ride or lives.
Start asking
not die. We live.
Nobody's dying. Not now.
She said, nobody's dying here, not now. I'm going to steal that. My ride or live.
My ride or live. So if they start talking, they don't really want, that person's going to be there, I'm good, I don't want to hang out, or they don't really like the person, or you're getting vibes, ask them. Ask the other friends, or if your parent who loves you, or your family, if they kind of seem to have a little bit of a hesitation or an issue, I would say flesh that out. Unpack it. Yeah. That's what we like to say in the industry. Yes. I feel like that's a therapy word, right? Okay. But yeah, unpack it. Ask. Now I notice you have a resistance. Why? And sometimes it's hard. It's hard when you really enjoy someone. Yeah. It's hard to kind of say no to that or no to some of it. And maybe what you can do is take a new approach. If someone is leading you in the wrong direction, whatever it is, even if it's gossiping, whatever you find yourself there, then maybe say, you know what? Why don't we try let's just say positive things about them, and just kind of just turn it around. Hey, we want to go out. We're going to go out drinking. Actually, I really, really wanted to go to this women's meeting. Charbria Shine is having the coolest thing, and it's going to be a bunch of girls and so fun. Why don't we go to that? And just try to change the narrative if you do notice that. It doesn't mean you have to cut people. Yeah. I'm not I'm not part of the block party. I hate blocking people. Yeah. I've done it twice, and one was because I was made to. That's a whole other story, guys. But just try to change the narrative. And if you can't, if you see that this is only where it's going, then you kind of change the relationship. Yeah. You change the dynamic of it. You categorize the relationship differently.
Yeah. You want to say? Go.
I am part of the block party.
Me too. I'm part of the block party, Nikki. Be like, block, delete, block. Look, with no hesitation.
I will block. I will distance myself from people. I will not talk to people if my peace is being disturbed.
Yeah.
And I don't have to be mean to you when I do it. I just won't talk to you. Like, you'll see me Tuesday and it'll be all smiles, and then you won't hear from me after that. But I think
well, dang, Donald. No, I'm just playing. Well, dang, you blocked me. I knew I could. You ghosted me. I knew she ain't been answering my.
But a red flag is definitely for someone, like a girlfriend that can't be happy for you. That's a red flag. If they're never, if they always criticize you, that's a red flag. Or the comparison. Or you have to watch the backhanded comments.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you think you cute. Or the little comments, oh, you having a little event. I saw this. It's like, so yeah, you do have to. Oh, Ty do that?
I'm messing with her. Did y'all see me? I pointed out, I said, you did that to me. She didn't do that. I'm joking. Sorry, Donna. Go ahead.
Those are red flags that if you have a friend or when you get something, I've had a friend ask me, well, how did you get that? Like, what do you mean, how did I get that? Like, you don't think I deserve it? Like, what? How can you be my friend? Or, I had one person, and I am married now, but before I was dating, and someone was like, oh, he's good for you. What do you mean? So it's like, so those things you have to listen, because people will reveal their heart if you listen. So those are things that's red flags in relationships. And you can gracefully bow out. If you notice they're toxic, you can gracefully bow out. You have to protect your peace and your peace of mind. And you don't have to be nasty about it or anything. Just cut the communication off. And then you can even be honest. Open communication. Like, this hurt me. I don't think that you have, the best interest for me. So I need to just back up for a minute and take some time. So, and if they, what should happen is they should evaluate their behavior, and they'll modify it if they want to be in relationship with you. Yeah. But you have to set the boundary. And the boundary is not telling them what to do. You have to let them make the choice. The boundary is, if you continue to do this, I cannot be in relationship with you. So think about it and let me know how we want to go forward from here. And then if they modify the behavior, then the relationship is worth saving. Yeah.
That's great. Okay, hand clap. Okay. That's awesome. Yeah, thanks, Don. I love that. I think for me, I love what you're saying with setting boundaries. I realized that that's part of self-love. And I also realized that saying no is a full sentence, and I don't have to feel guilty about that. I think I didn't really realize that I felt guilty about saying no to people or not being able to do what they wanted me to do until I got married. And my husband really helped me through that because, those of you who've gotten married, can you agree that to some extent your life changes from when you were single to when you got married? Oh, yeah. A lot, right? Yeah. And so there was just sometimes that I'm doing stuff with my husband or hanging out, or you just can't do everything, that you may have used to done. Doesn't mean I can have fun and stuff, but sometimes I would feel guilty about saying no to my friends, or no, I can't go somewhere, or no, I can't do something. And I had to realize that I don't have to give you a paragraph explanation to why I cannot do something. It's okay to say, I'm sorry, I can't. And that's a full sentence. It's okay. And I had to realize that setting boundaries, I had to realize that it's not just okay, but necessary to have personal boundaries. And to, even in your friendships that are healthy, to set the standard of, this is how we're going to operate. This is what it's going to be. And you don't have to feel guilty for that. And I had to realize that I had to mature in that area and say, it's okay to say no. And it doesn't mean you don't love that person. Doesn't mean sometimes you may even want to do whatever it is, but you can't do everything all the time. And I had to learn that. And I love what you're saying just about friendships. I noticed some of those things, and sometimes you don't want to let go of those friendships because of history. You have so much history with this friend. But like you said, it's a choice. You can talk about it, but if they don't want to modify it, you got to let it go. If it's one thing that's toxic that I never forget, if you always feel like a person sucks the life out of you, it's a problem. Yes. I've had a few friends that it's like they were leeches. And again, it's a give and take. It's ebb and flow. You pour into them, they take, you pour into them. I don't mean taking, destroying, but I mean they may have a problem. They want to vent about it. You know, we're friends. I'm going to let you vent. And, you know, it may be draining that day, but they're going through something, so you want to be there for them, and vice versa. But if every time you with this girl, you drained, every time you with this person, you just are depleted and they never pour into you, is that a friendship? Or is that more like a mentorship? Or are you their therapist? So you might want to just ask, what is this relationship to me? If I'm thinking it's a friendship, but they're stripping me every time, you need to evaluate that friendship. So are there questions? Oh, shoot. Well, let's just get on to the questions. We got to hurry up. All right, Hannah, thank you. Look at Hannah and her Daisy Dukes. Give Hannah a clap. Give Hannah a clap and them Daisy Dukes. Okay, Hannah. Okay. All right, is there anybody who wants to come up to the mic and ask the question, or did everybody just ask them in here? In here? Okay. All right. As a black woman in this society, how has the race issue attacked your self-love? And how have you dealt with this issue? As a black woman in this society, how has the race issue attacked your self-love? And how have you dealt with this issue? Anybody want to go first? I mean, I can go first, but I don't know. Go ahead.
Just joking.
Oh, oops, my bad. You can't answer that, my bad. I didn't even realize. Look, I'm acting so slow. I'm like, go ahead, Nikki. Go ahead for me. Okay, I'll start. Yeah. He cracking up. My husband laughing. That ain't funny, babe. Okay, as a black woman. Okay, so I would say for me, just in general, again, it stemmed back to my relationship with Christ. Like, if God created me, then I'm special, I'm worthy, I'm beautiful, in spite of what society has, the narrative. Like, for me, I don't know if some of you ever felt like this. I, at a time in my life, just felt like black women as a whole were just devalued, period. Like, and it could be wrong, but my perception was, it seemed like in the media, like it was always like we were less than. Like, our hair wasn't good enough. At one point, it seemed like something was wrong with our shapes, but then it seemed like a lot of people wanted the curvier shape. So it just seemed like, and certain people, then they were talking about the appropriation of our culture and things like that. So for me, it made me feel like, God, why would you create us to be less than? And I had to realize that's a lie, that's a narrative, that society, and I don't want to say as a whole, but it appeared as society as a whole was pushing that narrative that something's wrong with our hair, something's wrong with our skin, something is wrong with, with our bodies. And so for me, and again, it's different because I know in the society I'm a light-skinned black woman, right? So it's also can be different in that because at some point it was more like it's more favored to be light-skinned. It's so much within our culture, right? But honestly, can I just be honest? All my insecurities I had about being a black woman, light-skinned, dark-skinned, whatever, I had to really give it to God. And I really just had to say, okay, God, you created me, so that means nothing is wrong with me. I don't care what people are saying. I'm beautiful. Point blank, period. I don't care what people are saying. And I had to stop rejecting, and I didn't completely reject myself, but there are certain things about myself I rejected, and I had to get over it. And the biggest thing for me, if I could just be really transparent, is my hair. It was and we were talking about this, Doree, where's Doree? Where's Doree? What Doree is? She ain't in here. Oh, there you go. So, okay, yeah, so she's my MUA, and she's starting to do my hair. But for me, I grew up, I have, you can't tell because I have these in right now, extremely thick hair, to the point where it would be called nappy, right? So my mom put a relaxer in it really young because, not because she hated it, it was hard to manage, okay? And so I really don't know any other way but having a relaxer, just meaning straightening my hair out. So now that I'm older, I'm like, I want to see what my natural hair looks like. Like, what does my hair really look like? And so I've had to really learn to embrace who I am, and it's okay. And I wear these, not because I feel like my real hair is less than. I just like to have fun and switch it up. You know what I mean? But I had to learn it. I had some braids, natural things the other day, and I was like, oh, is this not cute? Guys, she's my sister. Y'all didn't know that. She's my older sister. And so she's like, embrace your hair. It's so cute. But I had to just embrace that if this is how it's growing out of my head, this is okay. God created it, and he doesn't create mistakes. And it's okay if you want to straighten your hair. Ain't nothing wrong with that either, but don't do it because you're rejecting yourself. Do it because you just want to change or you just want to switch it up. So now I'm able to wear all kind of different fun styles because they're fun, not because I feel less than. So somebody else take this. I'll take up to 5 minutes. Okay. Well, I need another black woman to give a perspective on that, okay? Can't just be my light skin perspective. You know I need a brown skin beauty to help me.
Okay, I'm a brown skin.
There you go.
I think, again, for me, and I don't know, maybe Donna might want to chime in, because for me, it goes back to the whole being comfortable in your own skin. So this is the skin that I'm in. And not to say that every moment I was comfortable in it, but I'm comfortable in my own skin. And I love our non-African American brothers and sisters, but just like how we were talking about things that are trending, like right now, African Americans are trending. Black people are trending. Like it's a thing to be black right now, and I'm black, so I can say it. Okay, so y'all don't throw nothing at me. Like it really is. Like I don't, and even sometimes like that we have a discussion. We sit back like, what is it? What is the thing with it right now? But it's like, not to say that there aren't still struggles, but again, I think it's because people are, and maybe that's it. Maybe it's the whole thing, like what I was saying about the mental health. When you have people with influence to kind of stand up and say things, or they embrace certain aspects of our culture, then it's more acceptable to other people. But it really just goes back to being comfortable in your own skin. Not to say you won't have challenges. Everybody has challenges, but it's just really being comfortable in who you are. And I think that sometimes the whole like we gotta be faster, smarter, all of that. Not to say that depending on what you're out here doing, like that may be true. But again, is it helpful to tell yourself that? Because really what you're doing is setting yourself up to say like, okay, I'm starting from way back here, and so I think it really is just looking at the opportunities that you have before you, taking advantage of those opportunities, and realizing that you are worthy of whatever is out there that everybody else is capable of and worthy of. It doesn't matter what your race is. That's just my take.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so we're going to move on one question per person. I'm just going to target somebody. All right, how do you deal with father issues and not letting it affect your future relationships? And then how or what steps do I start taking from healing from a narcissist? Okay, so we're going to deal with one. I'm going to go with Nikki. How do you deal with father issues and not letting it affect your future relationships? We got to go quickly. Can she have the mic?
Okay, thank you. That's okay. Okay, so letting it affect your future relationships, you can keep it from doing that. Having father issues, whether he left, he wasn't present enough, whatever it is, maybe rejection, complete rejection or abuse, you can forgive anyone and anything, and that is the first step. The number one step first is forgiveness. Don't just randomly do it. Do it deliberately and carefully. And what I mean by that is very much on purpose. So if you've never tried that before, tonight might be the first. You go home and you say, God, I want to forgive my father. I feel it in my heart. Or if you don't, and show me how. Show me how. Or if you don't feel it yet, Lord, I want to forgive my father. How do I do it? So you start with forgiveness. There's books you can read. I actually wrote a book called How to Win Him and Keep Him Happy, Secrets to Becoming an Amazing Wife. But there's a chapter on that. So if you can't find it somewhere else, I know that you can go in my book and look on the chapter on forgiveness. And I teach step by step, multiple ways and how to forgive, okay? Forgiveness in the Bible is the same word as divorce when it's a certificate of divorce, an official cut-off divorce. Forgiveness means cutting ties. It means you did this thing to me and there's this connection. I can only go so far because I'm connected to you, and forgiveness disconnects you to the wrong they've done. That's what it does. So you can be free. That's why people have freedom when they forgive. Secondly, after you've worked through that process of forgiveness, and sometimes, 70 times 7, sometimes the next day you feel like you didn't forgive the enemy. He'll try to tell you to forgive him. See, you're hurting, or you see that person, or you think about that person, those feelings come back, and you say, no, I forgave them. It's what you're telling yourself. yourself. You don't say, oh, I guess it didn't work. You say, no, I forgave them, and I'm not going to be talked out of it. They're forgiven. Lord, I forgave them. Father, you are forgiven. Whatever it is, right? You do that. And then healing. You ask God for healing. And there might be a process. Maybe you need to see a therapist or a counselor, all right? But healing is step 2. These are steps. So forgiveness. Then you start the process of healing. You ask for healing. They're not the same. Okay, you can forgive and be disconnected, but now you got this. This is where it does affect relationships still, right? If you're not healed. And you ask for healing and you become healed. It can be in a moment or it can be a process. Right? But involve God, no matter what it is. And then that's where the habit changes come in. Again, it can affect the relationship if you have habits. So for me, maybe it was, my dad left and I started looking for male attention. It wasn't conscious. It wasn't something I realized I was doing. I was just doing it. We only had women in the house. So I was looking for male attention, right? And so I had certain habits that attracted male attention. And so that would affect my relationships, my exclusive, like my serious relationships. Well, I'm have this relationship here and I'm looking for male attention somewhere else, still having conversations and liking when someone's attracted to me. So that's a habit. It's how you behave, what you do that will affect those other relationships. Obviously, this can translate so differently in all different ways. When we say daddy issues, it can mean a lot of things. But you say, okay, now that I'm healed, what are the habits that I have that could cause this pain again? That could cause another problem, that could cause this person that I love to leave me because I'm over here trying to get attention, right? And so the 3 steps I would say: forgiveness, then healing, then ask God, what habits should I change? I even changed the way I walked after I got healed.
Thank you, Nikki. All right, moving on. I have gone through rejection that has caused my self-esteem to go down. Everyone around me tells me I am so strong, but I am just acting strong because I feel I am not worth being a victim and not worth the support a victim needs. How can I change this? Okay, Ty. Make it snappy, please.
Okay, say it. Okay, so. I know. Thank you.
Yep. Read it out loud for everybody.
Okay, I have gone through rejection that has caused my self-esteem to go way down. Everyone around me tells me I am so strong, but I am just acting strong because I feel I am not worth being a victim and not worth the support a victim needs. How can I change this?
So she feels unworthy of getting help.
Right. So, again, it's really what we've been saying. It goes back to identity and purpose. First, whoever you are in the room, I want to be the first, well, probably, I'm sure not the first, but the first one up here to tell you that you are worthy. You are worthy of people loving you, supporting you, being kind to you. And I tell you to give yourself grace. Whatever you're going through, give yourself grace. I think that you pretty much are telling yourself the same thing over and over. You got to check the soundtrack. What are you, honestly, what are you watching on TV? What are you listening to? What books are you reading? Who are you hanging around? And if people see that, and that's what I mentioned earlier, a lot of times people can see us better sometimes than we see ourselves. I'm pretty sure you are resilient and you are strong. You need to make the decision. It will be a process. It may not be overnight. But to make the decision that you're not going to be that person, you can do that right now, right here, right now, where you are. You can decide, I don't want this. If you're tired of it, you don't want it, it's like LaDonna was saying, you can change it. You really can.
Can I make a quick suggestion? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's admitting it to the people that you love, too, and it might be hard, especially if they think you're strong. And I would say, try it one time with the person that you trust the most and say, can I ask you a favor? Would you mind not telling me I'm so strong when we talk about this? Because I don't feel strong, and when you tell me I'm strong, I feel like I have to fake being strong, and I just want to show you how I really feel. And if that feels right and they help, then maybe try it with 1 or 2 more of your close people. It doesn't have to be everybody. Stranger tells you you're strong. You don't have to, but the people you trust.
Thank you. So how do you deal with a toxic mother-in-law and your spouse doesn't see any wrong in his mother's behavior? Donna? Uh-oh, is this wrong? Are you about to go? Oh.
No. So my husband and I have been married 21 years. Woo-hoo. And in the beginning, I had a mother-in-law.
We can't hear you. I gotta hear this.
Okay.
Wait, what?
Right? I'm listening like
I can't hear you.
She's not here. No. But No, it was hard. It was hard. She was very controlling. And so for a long time, my husband was the only child. It was just her and him. Mm-hmm. So I believe like when we got married, she just felt like I was just taking her son. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, she would call the house private. She would, and you know what? So real quick. So my husband and I, we knew each other for a couple of years before we got married. But from the time we started courting till we got married, it was just 5 months. And really, it was a God thing. It was, I waited on God. Now, it wasn't always like that. Yeah. But when I was serious and like, you know what, Lord, whatever you say, whatever it is, I'm going to trust you. I waited. He blessed me with a husband. It was really quick. I prayed about it. He showed him who I was first. Right. Yeah. He showed him. He said, you talk to her about this. So he said, hey, you know, I think God is trying to do some things with this relationship. Go home and pray about it and let me know. And I was like, what? You know, so yes. But so 5 months was a lot for her. It was quick. She didn't know me, and she wanted to have the say-so. Mm-hmm. So it was very difficult. When we got married, she made him come get her. She made him late for the wedding. Very toxic. And I really had to pray. I really was like, Lord, you have to help me because it's not going to work if you don't help me change my heart. So he just started to show me things that were going on with her. And it was really me understanding her standpoint and having compassion for her is what really helped the relationship, because it was more about her than it was about me, and I couldn't take it personal. Yeah. I had to be objective with it. And it's okay, open communication. Open communication. If your mother-in-law is toxic, pray about it. Ask, if you're a believer, ask God, what should I say? Because he'll prepare her heart to believe it. To receive it when you come and bring it to her, if you're a believer. Let God fix the relationship. Now she'll call and she'll talk to me and not talk to him. And he's like, well, you talking to my mom? I'm like, yeah. You know, but it won't be perfect. It's a work. But you have to really let God do it, because there was a lot of hurtful things in the beginning, and just having the compassion to understand that it was her. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So just pray. If you're a believer, pray. If not, I don't know how you go. No, I'm just playing. No, but communication. Have that open communication with her. Yeah. Take her to lunch and just talk, because you might be like, oh wow, I never knew that. I never understood that. So that will help. That will help. Open communication. Yeah.
Okay, so for sake of time, what we're going to do, we're going to transition. We will get to all of your questions, but what we want to do is we want to start the pamper party part. Woo-hoo! Because we don't want to miss out on that, right? All right, guys, it's getting real. We're getting goofy over here. Okay. All right, question. How do you get comfortable being alone even when you have supportive friends? I get down when I'm alone. And then there's another question. Okay, so we'll ask that first. How do you get comfortable being alone? Even when you have supportive friends, I get down when I'm alone. Anybody want to tackle that one? I can start. Yeah, it's probably me. It is his friend. Okay, so for me, I'll kind of go from my personal experience. So I'm going to start at my singleness, because that's when I struggled the most with hating my singleness, because obviously I was alone. And so I really hated it for a while, but then I had to learn to be okay with myself. It's kind of what Ty was saying earlier. There was an issue with me because I couldn't be alone. So I had to learn to love myself, and it's not always easy either, but I had to, first of all, find things that I like to do. It's kind of simple. What do I like to do? What do I truly enjoy doing if no one is around? So I indulged in a lot of just fun things, and it doesn't have to cost money. Like, I literally found movie series I liked, like old school stuff. I found new music that I liked. Just got into some creative things, and everybody's different. You might be a movie buff. You might want to go to a movie by yourself. And again, you may have to force yourself. I didn't just want to take myself to lunch and sit there looking at the sky. You know, like, I forced myself to go it was like an experiment to be like, I have to be okay with myself. You're not going to always be alone, but be okay with sitting there drinking a cup of tea. For me, I don't drink coffee. And like reading a book, or even if you want to go there and get on your phone on Netflix and listen to something, watch something, like just force yourself to get out. But again, finding stuff that you enjoy. And because here's the thing. You're saying you have supportive friends. So it's not that you're isolated, because I do believe that we're not meant to live life alone, single or married. We're supposed to create a community or find our tribe, as I call it. However, the problem, it seems, is when you're alone, you still feel down. I would also say tap into your relationship with the Lord, meaning God. Talk to him when you feel alone. I journaled a whole lot in my singleness. And for some reason, when I journaled, I didn't feel alone. I felt like that was my dialogue. At first, it started off my dialogue of me being angry or venting or whatever, but eventually journaling became just therapeutic, as far as even when I had good days. Like, oh my God, today was so exciting, like da-da-da-da. And then it started to feel like I was talking more to God, not just writing, like pouring out my heart. So find something that speaks to you. And this isn't a popular answer, and you're not gonna wanna do this, but pray. Like, you might be like, that's all they're talking about. But it changed my life when I forced myself to sit there and have dialogue with God. I didn't always want to, y'all. Sometimes I was crying because I was like, I hate my life. I'm by myself. I don't want to do this. But I forced myself. Even in the tears, even in the pain, I forced myself. And before you know it, y'all, I found joy in being single. I didn't even want to get married. Not because I thought men were bad. I was just so okay with me. I learned to love my life and to create a life I didn't feel like I needed rescuing from, and to love my relationship with God. And I even started to see that God was romantic. He started romancing my heart, like just different things that I thought I needed a man for, I did not. So it's okay. Like the things, use some of the tips that I just said, but it's a process, because you may have a day that you're like, man, I feel alone, lonely. And for me, my sister was so good. I always say it's so funny that I've never gone to therapy, but then I realized my sister is a therapist, and I talk to her all the time. She gives me advice, so I probably technically have had therapy, but she has helped me, probably unintentionally. But it's so important, because she helped me so much, like just to realize the things that sometimes I needed to do, like being okay with being alone, being okay with talking to people. And she would say to me, sometimes you get really down because you don't have anything to do. She'd say, I think you would say something like, make sure you plan ahead. You know this is your personality. You have to be out and about. You have to be around people. So be proactive. Don't wait till you get down and depressed and say, I'm lonely. Make a plan. Like, just call some friends and say, hey, next month, let's do this. Like, fill your calendar up. And sometimes you got to just fill your calendar up. Sometimes you have to say, I know I get lonely. I know I get depressed. So I'm going to schedule these 4 friends on this time of the month, right? So just filling yourself with positivity, your life with positivity, and around positive people, but learning that inner dialogue with God and finding stuff you'd like to do alone. So I hope that helped. I know that was really long. That was okay. Okay. Anybody else we want to go? Yeah. For sure. You want to say something? Look, I'm hearing you say something. Want to say something? Want to add to it?
No.
Oh, okay. How to leave someone toxic if they're mean, abusive, just bad for my mental? Girl, you just got to leave. You just got to leave. And if you feel scared, get some support, because it's not always easy, especially if you got a soul tie with the person. You're all, and what I mean by that is you're having sex with the person. If this is a romantic relationship, I don't know if it is. Does it say friendship? Yeah, I think it's a relationship. Get support. Somebody else help us out. Go ahead.
I want to piggyback and echo what you said. Get support. Get a person that will literally help you leave. Literally, like logistically help you leave, and then hold you accountable to leaving. If you have a plan, if it's okay, I can't do it today, but okay, well on Wednesday, this is how you do. This is where we're gonna meet here. I mean, like have a plan, and then Wednesday they call you, say, hey, what's going on? Where are you at? Because if you don't have, when they are truly toxic or even abusive, they're much harder to leave. And you need help and you need accountability, or you'll just stay there because it's harder to leave than to stay.
That's good. Definitely get help. I love that. Yeah. Especially abusive. Yeah. Okay. How do you get over past trauma? Meeting the wrong people doesn't help. So how do you get over past trauma? And I guess maybe if you meet someone that reinforces maybe something you've gone through. So how do you get over past trauma?
So you have to do the work. With trauma, it's about the person. Now, of course, it was most times the external circumstances, the traumatic event or activity or whatever, but it's the internal work of the person. So that's because the question said, how do you get past trauma?
Yeah,
right?
how do you get past,
Right.
get over it? Yeah.
Get over. Okay, so you have to do the work to get past it. Without knowing what type of trauma it is, I can't really, because it could be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of but you have to actually deal with that thing. Now, there are a ton of books out there, a ton of self-help books. But of course, I am big on seeking counsel. If you are, in a church and you prefer pastoral counseling, or a minister spiritual counseling, or if you prefer a clinician, a licensed person to help you get through that, it's definitely steps. And also, depending on the type of trauma, how you deal with that, the different activities that you can do, interventions and skills that the person could assist you with, but that you could also do yourself. Because people are going to come and go. People will be around you. It's really not about that. It's really about actually dealing with that head on. And not to re-traumatize, but there is a piece where you will have to, like I said, lean in and feel the feels to get through the healing part of that so that you can continue to be on that journey to heal.
Okay.
Ty, would you say it helps to find other people, like a group, or no? Like a group, like who've maybe a group that experienced that.
Like
thing.
a support group?
Like a support-
Absolutely,
yes.
absolutely.
We
Yes,
can't hear you,
absolutely.
ladies. Speak up.
So yes,
Yeah.
yes. Nikki was saying she was asking about a support group. Absolutely, yes. I think in a lot of things in
Speak
life,
up.
it is when you notice that someone else has dealt with what you dealt with, or they're going through what you're going through. Again, it makes you feel like, oh, I'm not alone in this. I'm not weird. There are other people who have dealt with this. And also, people may be at a different stage in that healing process. So they can offer hope. You can actually see. And then also, they can actually offer up some of the things that they did to get to where they are.
Thank you. You want to add?
Yeah, and I was going to say, really being honest, like you're not going to get through the trauma if you're not honest about what it is and how it affected you. So the self-reflection is going to be important to get through it, to get past it, to identify like what I'm really feeling. I think when my mom passed, I had to think about what I was feeling. And sometimes you fight against the feeling. Like you don't want to feel weak. You don't want to feel this hurt. You don't want to. So fighting against it is not going to help get past it. You have to acknowledge it. And like Ty said, you just have to feel the feels. Not re-traumatize yourself, but feel it, acknowledge it, and then grow and process it from there.
Good. Ladies, if you could just talk up a little bit and put your mics up to your mouth so they can hear you. As a future therapist, how do you help others while you're battling yourself? So this was the same person about the past trauma. How does she help others while she's also battling herself?
So this person, wait, she says she is a future therapist?
Yep, as a future therapist.
Future therapist of the world? Okay, so how do you, the question is, say it again, how do you?
As a future therapist, how do you help others while you're battling herself? She's battling herself.
Okay.
She's the same person that just asked, how do you get over past trauma?
Okay, so you definitely have to deal with you, because you don't want to be working with others and then your stuff comes out, right? You project, you transfer, you definitely don't want to do that. So you definitely will need to deal with your things. You need to deal with them. Take a minute. If you need to take I don't know. So you're saying future. I'm not sure where you are in the process. But when I was when I was getting my master's, the professor told us that at times the therapist may need a therapist. So we actually we had to undergo therapy. In order to be able to to experience what your clients experience, they say you need to actually go through it yourself. So if you are not in therapy, I would say you should definitely undergo therapy. It will definitely help you.
All right, thank you. I feel the youth is influenced to be mentally ill for attention. What do you say to those who self-diagnose? Take those who say they're on the spectrum. Anybody know what on the spectrum means? Can you tell me what's going on with this? Okay. Can somebody speak to this?
I don't think I've ever heard of a young person saying they're on the spectrum, because that's not necessarily trendy. So that would be a surprise to me. I've definitely had youth self-diagnose ADD, ADHD, and even like bipolar and OCD. But I've never heard anyone say they're on the spectrum, the autism spectrum.
So what would you say to, so she says, I feel the youth is being influenced to be mentally ill for attention. So they self-diagnose themselves. So what would you say to that?
I can tell you what I do as an annoying mom. First, I ask for definitions. Like, do you know what this is? Do you know what OCD is? Do you know what it stands for? Do you know the actual symptoms of, and I'm saying OCD because that's really common. Like, oh, that's my OCD. And it's like, hold on, don't say you're OCD. Let's hold on a minute, because that's like, it's a disruption in your life. You know, it causes, you can't function properly. And so we'll talk about the reality and the what do you call it? The gravity of some of these diagnoses, and okay, that's this, and define it, look it up. Is this what you want? Okay, do you have any friends who, I would just have a conversation. I wouldn't judge. I wouldn't say, no, you're not. Or, just really have a conversation and ask a lot of questions. Let's look it up together. Okay, well, do you really think this might be a thing? But why don't we take a test? Because there are little tests online that don't diagnose you. They say, should you go and see someone to be diagnosed? Just something where it's just questions and self-exploration. And then just help them understand how serious it is to a diagnosis is, and ask if that's what they want. I don't know. What do you have?
No, that seems good. Yeah. So we're going to move on. How do you overcome negative internal thoughts and self-sabotage? Well, we kind of talked about that, I feel like, today. Changing the narrative that you speak to yourself, even if those negative thoughts come to yourself, changing it. So if you're speaking negative words, you're going to change not what you are hearing that are negative, but speak positive of what you want to see in your life. Because the power of life and death is in your tongue. So again, you're going to listen to your voice more than anything. And you might say, but I'm the voice in my head. No. That's probably the enemy of your soul sending those negative thoughts to your head, or society, or something you heard, or a negative person. And even if you feel like it's yourself, if you, like she always would say, kind, what's that thing you said? That was a good one. Is it true, helpful, kind? Come on, spit some knowledge. Yes, don't be unkind to yourself. So switch to the narrative. Donna?
Yes, and you hit it on, that's what I was going to say earlier.
Talk up a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say earlier with the enemy, that's the power he has, deception, suggestion, and he tells you what's not true. So sometimes it's not you in your head, it's the suggestion or the deception of the enemy to say you're not worthy. It's like, why would you say that if that's not true? Because he lies. What he whispers is lies. So if he says you're not worthy, then you are worthy. If he says you're not going to make it, then you're going to make it. So that's the power and suggestion of the enemy, but you have to know the truth. And Ty talked about having that devotion time. If you don't know the truth, you don't know how to fight the lies.
Yeah.
So the revelation of the truth of who you are and who you were made to be and how God has made you to be worthy and valuable, that's always going to defeat the voices of the enemy.
All right, so we have about 4 questions left, I think. 5, okay. How to prevent production burnout when I'm still, I feel so restless and get depressed. I feel like I was like that before, right? I love to be productive. I love to be doing 1,000 things. And I struggled for a while with, if I wasn't productive, that I was worthless, or what am I doing with my life? And I'm a loser. I feel bad and down about myself. If you love being productive, I don't see what's wrong with being productive. It's okay. Maybe that's the way you're built. Maybe that's the way God created you. However, just make sure that you're taking time out for you to rest. Don't be so productive that you're running yourself in the grave early because you don't take the time, as we're talking about self-love, self-care, and realize that your worth is not in your productivity. You're worthy just because you were created with worth. So, anyone else?
But that's like how we love each other. Like in the natural, sometimes that's what we see. Like natural love, like we love people based on what they can do for us.
Yeah.
So if we feel like we're not doing something for people, then we don't have love. So it is a misunderstanding about what love is. It's not about the transactional. That is just that agape love, that unconditional. Like it doesn't matter if the highs or the lows, production, no production, adding value. Those things, just the constant love. And we even have to love ourselves that way. It says love God and then love yourself as you love your neighbors. So how we learn to love others, we have to learn to love ourselves the same way, that unconditional agape.
And I would say for high producers, one, call your rest deliberate. Like say, okay, I'm going to take this time out to rest right now. Like maybe you really didn't have much to do that day, but be like, okay, from 3 to 5, 3 to 6, 3 to 10, whatever. I need to rest. I'm going to rest so tomorrow I can be productive. And so even if you see yourself slipping into you shouldn't be resting, but you're resting, just be like, okay, this is rest. And then this is my plan, and tomorrow or at this time, I'm going to get up. And then another thing is write a list of all the things you want to do, even while you're resting, while you're not being productive, that you'd like to do when you get a chance. And it can be something as little as organize the junk drawer. And that way, when you don't have big things to produce, you can kind of hit your task list. And it's fun. For a producer, it's fun to check off those to-dos. So.
Love it. That's good. What or who influenced you to become who you are today? Anybody want to tackle that?
Oh. Yeah, I think my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was a lovely, lovely lady. So didn't have enemies. She was, a godly woman. So she did. She taught us a lot of strong values, and she influenced me a lot to be who I am. Yeah.
I would say it was a lot of people along the way, like coaches and mentors or bosses. I've had some amazing bosses in my life. But I would say, like you said, it started with my mother, just being a woman of God. Honestly, she laughs all the time. I was like this little in the prayer closet praying with her with my little journal, like I'm hearing the voice of God, and she would laugh at me. But I just cleaved to my mom in that way. And I learned how to be in the presence of God at such a young age from her. And so I just really respected that. I've always respected that. And I believe I am the woman who I am because of those seeds that she's sown. And even my father, the seeds that he's sown have sown into my life at a young age. So it started there, but then you meet other people along the way. Yeah. Anybody want to jump or? Yeah.
I could say quickly, my mom and my husband, both of them have been supportive to the point of discomfort. They're just extremely supportive people, and they will do whatever it takes. And that's been, really great for me.
So I gotta say something now, right? Okay. So definitely my parental units, and like you said, there were a lot of people along the way. I felt like where one person may okay, this is where I leave you. Then someone came along and took me the rest of the way. I had a lot of mentors, colleagues, and just people in the field that helped me. And so I think it was just a culmination of experiences and people in my life that got me to be who I am.
Yeah. I love that. How do you forgive yourself? Anybody like to tackle that? How do you forgive yourself?
You say, Nikki, I forgive you.
That easy, huh, Nikki?
I mean, you probably shouldn't ask me. I'm very forgiving of myself.
No, that's good. You give yourself grace.
I made a mistake. We're going to move on. It's going to be fine tomorrow. So I really do genuinely think this is for someone who's a little harder on themselves.
Yeah. So, I'm harder on myself,
really
I think.
Easy for me to forgive myself.
Yeah. Okay. I would say that I've learned now to be gracious with myself, but I would definitely say that before, and sometimes I could struggle back and forth with that, with being hard on myself. But in all honesty, just the fact of grace, God's given me grace. So if he's given me grace, who am I to not give myself grace? So I really try to just give myself a little bit more wiggle room, I call it, because it's stressful for me when I'm not forgiving myself, when I'm hard on myself. And I know he doesn't want me to live a life that's stressful and weighed down. And so I'm really now getting over it. Like, my husband's so great with that because he's so encouraging, and he's just like, it's okay. You know, like, it's fine, move on. Like, don't think about it. Like, you have, like, kind of like what you said. It's kind of like that, like, okay, it'll be okay. Just fix it. And he's a person, like, fix it type of person. Like, if you don't like something, fix it. Don't harp on it. Forgive yourself. And it could be easier said than done. I do understand that because, you know, we're laughing and having fun, but it could be something really serious. Mm-hmm. Like, maybe you had an abortion, or maybe, you know, you ruined your marriage and it was your fault. Or maybe you feel like, you know, you dropped out of school and now you feel like it's over for your career. Well, it could be so many deep things, you know, but we can change it. We can fix it. And some things we cannot, like an abortion, things like that, but you have to realize that God forgives you. Yep. He forgave you even before you knew you were going to sin or make a mistake. Yep. He sent Christ before you even were born. So when you think of that, the sacrifice he made on the cross, and how he took the sins of the world, the most heinous, disgusting thing that somebody could do, murder somebody, rape somebody, kill somebody. And again, to us, we like, oh no, that's terrible. Oh, I'm not forgiving you, you know. But he forgives even that person, because everybody needs love and forgiveness and salvation and healing. And most of the time, the person who has done something hateful is because they're hurt. It's a heinous cycle. Maybe somebody else was raped and that's all they know, and then they raped. Doesn't make it right, right? That does not make it right, but they need forgiveness. We all need healing and forgiveness. So when I think about all of that, and I'm worried about the fact that I didn't finish my to-do list.
Right.
Come on now, girl. Like, you better chill out.
Right.
You know, and it could be something even worse. I've done some things in my life that I'm not proud of, and you probably would never have imagined that I did that. But I gave it to God, and I said, Lord, if you say I'm forgiven, then I have to believe it. And it was a process, and I kept praying over it and kept thanking God, and just kept changing the narrative I spoke to myself about the thing that I did that I couldn't forgive myself. And now I look back and I'm like, wow, I'm completely healed from that. I don't think about when people bring it up and talk about it in different situations. I forgot I even went through it. Mm-hmm. And God can do that for sure. Anybody else?
I was going to say, I think definitely what you all said. I think, too, you want to unpack, that's that word again. You want to unpack and kind of do that self-evaluation and reflection on why you're so hard on yourself. There's a reason why. Was it when your upbringing, were you not allowed to make mistakes? Is it because you think that you're supposed to be so perfect that you think you don't make mistakes? Is it a pride thing? Ultimately, if you're not forgiving of yourself, you don't give yourself grace, you're actually rejecting yourself. It's self-rejection. So you want to look at, okay, where does that stem from? Why is this a thing? And then begin to do the work from there. And then doing the work is definitely what you said. It's not like, okay, because it's like, where do I go from here? Once you identify that, and then you have to do the work. But you definitely want to think about where that comes from. And sometimes it really is just saying, oh, I just need to be kind to myself. It might just be that easy, like you said, oh, tomorrow will be better, you know? But then sometimes it is like deeper, as she was saying, and then you want to actually dig deeper. And again, you all will hear me say it all night. Feel the feels. Figure out, okay, this is a thing, and why is this a thing?
Yeah. I just wanted to add, it can be very serious to forgive yourself. So I think starting with forgiving others, because forgiving yourself, really, a lot of it is about really being able to receive the forgiveness of God and receive it. Not know that it exists, but receive it like you forgave me, just like you forgave the worst sinners, right? But when we forgive others, when we're not forgiving others, it's like we're living this lifestyle of our culture inside of us. Our internal culture is unforgiving. So we're going to not forgive. We're way better at receiving God's forgiveness and forgiving ourselves if we have a lifestyle of just forgiving people quickly. Someone did something to you that day. They cut you off with their car. Something happened that was horrible in your past. Whatever it is, just forgive, 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 and you'll be able to forgive yourself more easily. Also, perfection is not the goal. So if you are a perfectionist, you have to let go of perfection.
That's good. That's good. All right, we got a few more. All right, I was emotionally abused by my own mother. I'm a cycle breaker for my girls.
A cycle breaker?
Mm-hmm. So best practices for modeling and equipping them to know their worth. So she was emotionally abused. She wants to break that cycle. So she wants best practices for modeling and equipping them to know their worth. So some, I guess, practices or tips of how to help her girls know their worth?
Something I do with my daughter, okay, my daughter is beautiful and talented, and I know we all think that, but I mean, she's like beautiful, and she just does something, and she's good at everything. And I do let her know, by mistake, honestly, probably more than anything, because it's so easy for me to do that, and I tried to kind of pull back on that and actually watch the character. I compliment her character. So she's a hard worker. She's great at basketball naturally, but man, she will work hard. She'll dribble for a long time and she'll practice. And so I'll compliment her hard work and how hard she tried and that she's, studying at school, and I'll compliment the character. And so I think that's important. You can say the nice things. I mean, I was raised being told I was the most smartest, most beautiful girl in the whole wide world. A lot of that was good. Maybe it was a lot, but I think it's important to compliment when you see good character traits, compliment them, and know that your love and your compliments are unconditional, so that when you do have a critique, it's taken well.
All right, so last two. How do you deal with father issues? Oh, we said that one, the last one. How or what steps do I start taking from healing from a narcissist? I feel and tell myself I'm okay, but deep down inside, I know I'm still broken. Anybody want to tackle that? Nobody wants to tackle the narcissist.
I mean,
I could talk too. Go ahead.
I really do think it's a lot of what I talked about: forgiveness first, ask for healing. Yeah. You have to put yourself around people that said the opposite, that had the opposite narrative. And unless you need to talk to that person because, say, you have children or something with them, block party. That's the one you can block, okay? Because every chance they get, if this is the relationship, they're going to try to tell you how you're not good enough, how you're bad, how you messed up, how everything is your fault. I mean, that's just what they like to do. Or they'll try to reel you back into their web of love and then destroy you once they have you again. So block them, and if you can't block them, for example, I had children with my narcissist, with a narcissist. He's not mine. Boundaries. I created boundaries. I didn't even know what boundaries were. I was 23 years old, divorced, had 2 kids. And his own mother told me, you need boundaries. I was like, okay, what are those? All right, this is 21 years ago. And so she explained what they were, and I created 3 boundaries for him, and I kept them. I found a way to keep them. So create the boundaries. I'll tell you what they were. Don't yell at me, don't call me names, and don't curse at me. Those are the 3 things that can't happen, and if they do, then we won't continue the conversation. I know that sounds so simple, but that's what the entire relationship was. So I said those things, and then when it would happen, usually on the phone, I would say, okay, well, when you can be cordial, we can talk later. And I would say goodbye. I would try to do my best. That was my best right there. Sometimes it didn't look that great, but keep the boundaries, because that's how you keep yourself healthy. And they learn they can't do it anymore, and then they stop doing it after a while because it doesn't work.
Yeah. All right, so that is the end of our questions. Give our panelists a hand. Woo! Thank you so much. If you guys are interested in talking a little bit more, finding out more about Nikki's book, finding out more about therapy from Ty, finding out more about some counseling from LaDonna, or just some tips and things, go ahead and talk to them afterwards. And that's it. Thank you.